Hey, this is Brooks with Character Design Forge. I want to do something that I haven't in a while, which is a series of videos I had started doing called Character Design Walkthroughs. And just like the walkthrough of, say, like a video game, this would take you step by step through the process of creating a character from start to finish. And the idea being that you could learn something along the way, either a practical tip or some kind of insight into character design. So I'm going to break these videos up into the background of the character, the process of making the character, and then the finished product. So for this video, I want to start with a character called Truael, the Timekeeper. This character is one where I'm pulling a lot of unused ideas from past things that I've thought about and tried, and sort of molding them together into a sort of amalgam and repurposing him as a new character for a story that I'm planning on you guys seeing pretty soon. And I won't spoil too much of what the current version of him actually is, apart from maybe some hints in the final product at the end of the video, but I will tell you a little bit about sort of the past iterations of him. I think the key thing that's always been true about Truael is the fact that he's removed from time. So here's one idea I had, if I'm remembering it well. I'm still not sure if it was a very good idea. It's a vague thing I probably thought about for a day or two and then pretty much abandoned. He was at one point this sort of humanoid quartz being, quartz being the mineral that's inside timepieces that helps keep time. And I think he was created at the end of the then universe, like in the distant future, and because the universe started like destroying itself backwards in time, but he was removed from time, he sort of was trying to stop this like backwards erasure of history, but could kind of hop around in time too. The name Truael, I think, is just a jumble on the word altruist, and I think because he was so removed from time and removed from human situations and everything, the idea that he was altruistic and doing things solely, doing good solely for the benefit of others, that's where that came from. I don't think that's super true with the version of him now, but I just liked the name. Okay, this is cool. In actually looking for some old drawings I found, I guess I had sort of started to thumbnail out a comic version of this story, which is kind of funny. This drawing that I'm showing you now and the one that I'm about to show you are super old. I'm talking years and years old. There are so many problems artistically and otherwise with this character, but overall you can tell that the idea was he was supposed to be a time traveler at this point. So moving into the process portion of this video, all of this was done in the app Procreate, which lets you sort of show a time-lapse recording. I used a very fat brush to just block out these silhouettes, which is really good for saving time and being effective and getting broad shapes with your characters. That upper left idea I like, and I might involve as sort of like a younger version of the character, but in the bottom right here you see this idea that's somewhat top-heavy. That's the one that really clicked for me and I started pursuing. The character is supposed to be somewhat loosely based on jellyfish, which is a very loose and abstract idea. Personality-wise, he's very fastidious and obsessive, and is really trying to keep time exactly the way that it is. So he's not the sort of time traveler or timekeeper that's changing things. He's actually actively working to keep it the same. So I worked out a bit of a color palette with that sort of small thumbnailed version and blew that up and started to sketch over that, adding some detail and trying to refine and add some layers of detail to the character from what it was. Already I made a change on the leg there that bothers me all the way to the end of this design, and you'll see the change that I end up making. At this point I was really happy with the amount of detail that I was able to add to the head, the scarf, the lapels around his jacket. Everything is kind of coming together well. I also added a bit of a head tentacle that wraps over the hunchback there and around the back, and I just like the way that it was able to come out. I always had the idea of a sphere kind of hovering between those prongs on his head, or those ears on his head, so the way that that involved itself with the head tail, I think I was pretty happy with too. After the sketching process, I block in with a solid brush the silhouette, and then locking the opacity of that, I'll start to add a bit of color and change to block out the detail with each of the colors, and then starting new layers when convenient or when it's better to add in the layers or the detail elements that go over top of those. At this point, this bright pink color that you see will end up being a multiply layer, so that's a blending mode called multiply that will darken once you select it, and there you see it happening. I tend to use a multiply layer for my shading and definition. In this case, I ended up using actually 2 sort of tiers of multiply layers of shading, and then after that, of course, I'll add a bit of lightening. I use the lasso tool and then a very soft brush to add in the light. It's important to me, sometimes I'll get some very muddy or overly soft definition to my lighting and shading, so those hard edges really helped, I think, to contrast the really smooth, dark layers. I added a bit of rim lighting, and here you see me kind of come back in. Not the easiest thing to do when there's so much detail, but I think it was worth it to completely restructure the way that right leg of his lays out. There's the final version of the character, at least for now. I'll most likely revisit either the drawing or the pose or some element of the character before I actually utilize him in the story I'm working on now. Patreon backers will actually be able to access the Photoshop version of this file and the Procreate version of this file, which are essentially the same, and that way you'll be able to look at each of the layers up close and break it down and see sort of the process from a hands-on view. Thank you for checking out this character design walkthrough. I hope there was at least something you were able to gain along the way. That's it for me today. I'm making new videos every week at Character Design Forge. Subscribing on YouTube lets you know when new videos are made available. My course, Learn Character Design, is a comprehensive character design curriculum. Head over to learncharacterdesign.com to find out more about that. A future course called Designing Game Characters is coming very soon, and anyone who is a student of Learn Character Design will be getting this add-on course completely for free. If you enjoy these videos, if you've ever been entertained or educated by the videos that I make, please consider backing me on Patreon at patreon.com/bageldenizen. Thank you for watching, and have fun creating.